Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to Looking Ahead, the series where I break down and analyze the meta, what's happening over in Japan, and how will it impact Taiwan. Today, we have a lot to get through, and firstly, I want to talk about is Tera Box really taking over the post-rotation format? This new archetype has pretty much dominated over in Japan right now, especially since the Champions League, really utilizing the power of Clefairy and Teal Mask Ogerpon, as well as also Bolstering Mask Ogerpon. So can anything really keep this deck in check? So we're going to analyze the City League meta share to really see exactly how dominant this archetype really is. Plus, a ton of new cards got revealed, including the return of Mega Pokemon EX as 3-prize Pokemon. So I'm going to break down my thoughts and feelings and impact this could really have to the game. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video and the brand new cards. So before we talk about Megas, we've got a few other new cards got revealed because Japan does get a new set in just a few weeks' time, which will be part of our May set. And some of them are pretty interesting. First one is Ethan's Pinsir, which I obviously think I'd straight away look at the second attack for 3 colors energies, because this can work well with the Ho-Oh and Ethan's Adventure Engine to energy accelerate to our Ethan's Pokemon. This does 1 point return, 70 damage, and if any of your Ethan's Pokemon was knocked out from attacks for your opponent's Pokemon last turn, this attack does 100 more damage. So 170 damage for 3 colors energies is pretty powerful. Instantly, I think this can one-hit KO the likes of Zoroarks as well as the likes of Charizard, but this isn't as powerful as I really hope it would be. I do like how we do have this sort of return sort of style one attacking option for Ethan, another way to have sort of hit some weaknesses, but its Charizard is still definitely doing pretty well in post rotation. I could see this kind of make a case to go into like the Mikago style engine. We also see that Ethan's sort of Woodo, and I'm not the biggest fan of this one. For the main attack you might be using again, think about the Ho-Oh engine to energy accelerate, the attempt mimicry, and flip a coin if heads, choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon and use this attack. When we have the likes of Mew already in the format which can guarantee attack for only 3 color energies, this one here on a coin flip potentially you could use the opponent's attack. I just don't see that as very strong. A card I do see is very powerful and will definitely impact this format is the likes of Shaman. So what Shaman has is an amazing ability. It does have 80 HP, remember, so you can't search out from Buddy Poffin, but we have the likes of Artisan and Nestbulb. Prevent all damage done to your bench Pokemon without a rule box from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. This is incredibly powerful. All of a sudden now, so many archetypes can actually survive from the likes of Welshman Mask Ogerpon. These evolving decks, like Zoroark, like Dragapult, can actually be protected. We can and keep these likes of Dramatam and Welshman Mask Ogerpon really in check, as we've kind of seen how powerful Welshman Ogerpon is. We saw how strong it was in the video I released yesterday, how it can just get it out as early as turn 1 going second. Now, granted, we are already in a format where Tera Pokemon already have these inbuilt bench damage protection, so in a way, we could just chuck this in likes of these Tera boxes, and now everything has bench protection. But I really like this one. I think it's a very well designed card. It's really keeping these rule box archetypes in check, as after seeing the reveal of Megas, I think this card is definitely a must to have some sort of protection from these non-rule boxes. Also seeing new Rapidash, which is just once your turn, draw a card. Lots of people are kind of go up in arms because there's no additionally effect. There's no like energy acceleration or card advantage, or so a way to actually search anything from the deck. But I think this drawing 1 card is still pretty powerful. Could see some likes in GLC, but overall right now we already have a good Rapidash which makes your discard energy and deal more damage. Just chucking one of this one in, having that additional draw factor could see some play. And last of these new sort of cards I want to talk about before we get to Megas is Misty Starmie got revealed for 1 water, 60, and if you evolve this turn, it does 80 more damage. 140 damage. We already have this sort of the Gyarados sort of engine right now with the Psyduck. This could be good as another single price attacking option, potentially, but overall, not really as impressed with the Misty sort of engine. But now I really want to talk about Megas. They have returned. They got revealed over on Pokemon Day, and there's a few big things going for this one, which I want to mention. Number 1, they have a ton of HP, 340 HP and 360. 340 on a stage 1, I think is one of the most amount of HP I've seen pretty much in the Pokemon trading card game, which is absolutely insane. Number 2 is they actually evolved straight on from a previous Pokemon. So Riolu, you could potentially Buddy Poffin and then instantly evolve into this one next turn into a Riolu, Mega Lucario EX, which is very, very powerful. Even for like some Mega Gardevoir as well. Another one is they are 3-prize Pokemon. They have returned. We thought they disappeared after pretty much V-Stars ruled out and VMAXs back about a couple of years ago. But no, we are seeing that they are 3 prizes because they have a ton of HP. So this is obviously caused a ton of talking points in the Pokemon trading card game. I do also want to note, and I might be overthinking about it. Well, they did mention on Pokemon Day our prototypes, they could potentially change. So potentially they could be listening to our feedback and could increment these changes in, as Japan does get this revealed on their sets, I think in like August time. So we still have some time. But now it's actually looking at the cards as well, and Mega Lucario is looking incredibly powerful. So obviously it's the stage 1 and it has 2 great attacks. The first one, Aura Jab, 130 damage, and attach up to 3 basic fighting energies from your discard pile to your bench Pokemon any way you like. So this is pretty powerful. 1 energy for 130 damage. We've also got the return of basically plus power, but in way for fighting form, which is Premium Power Pro, which makes your fighting Pokemon attack do 30 more damage. So all of a sudden you play 2 of these. For 1 energy, you're hitting for 190 damage. Very, very powerful. And energy acceleration, we already know there's a great way to put cards from discard pile with Brilliant Blender, so let's go see some good play as well. So that's also Mega Blade, which I kind of think is a very straightforward attack, which we've seen on these big sort of attacking option. 170 damage, can't just attack next turn. Couple premium power pros. You're basically doing 330 damage with 2 of these and one hit KO everything for 2 energies. Another really scary thing is there is actually a supporter card in a few sets ago in Scarlet and Violet, which lets you just search your deck and evolve one of your Pokemon into a stage 1, and you can do this as early as the first turn. So going second, you could also have a Mega Lucario with 340 HP and Energy Accelerate to all your other Riolus on the bench. This, I think, is really, really scary, and left unchecked could make this definitely a huge Tier 1 BDIF. Mega Gardevoir also got revealed, and I think this works very nicely with Gardevoir EX currently. Gardevoir EX currently is missing a good attacking option, and this is where Mega Gardevoir EX really comes into play. For 1 Psychic Energy, Mega Symphony, 50 damage, times the amount of Psychic Energy to attach to all of your Pokemon. You have 8 out in play, which is currently the normal amount for Gardevoir. You're doing 400 damage, so as of right now, that's pretty much to be KOing everything. So this could see some sort of play right now going forward. Overall, I think the Megas, I'm really happy they've returned. I'm iffy about them being a 3 prize sort of attacking options. I want to see exactly what they kind of get revealed. Could we see sort of a return of some sort of like Spirit Link, for example? You have to pay an item card to evolve into Megas. Again, we've only just seen them as like attacking option. Collectors would definitely collect them, and I think the artwork is pretty powerful right now. I really like how striking they are. I love sort of the sort of striking sort of simple colors as well. So again, I'm interested about what Megas are going to be, but very skeptical right now because I'm currently loving the owner's Pokemon and very worried what Mega Pokemon could do to the game. So anyway, this is stuff to look forward to in the future. Let's actually look a bit more about post-rotation and see exactly how the City League Championships are shaping up from the huge reign of the likes of Tera Box. So we've seen that finally Dragapult and the likes of Raging are finally being dethroned by this the Tera Box being 15.5%. And we've noticed a ton of different things. If you've been keeping up by looking at the post-rotation meta shift, we've gone from Dragapult being pretty much a 20 to 25% archetype, moving down to 12%, and kind of like more distributedly evenly spread between now the likes of Tera Box, likes of Raging and also Dragapult as well. So we're seeing a bit more of a diverse style metagame. I think what makes the likes of Tera Box so powerful is how scary it can use the Wellspring Ogerpon as early as going second right now in the game. Having that Crispin, having the likes of the Sparkling Crystal, all of a sudden can really hinder the likes of Raging Bolt, likes of Zoroark, any of its new Flareon deck coming out right now, as well as also the likes of Dragapult, pretty much like removing 2 potentially of their very key support Pokemon, like their Eevees, like their Hootus, like for example their Dreepies and Duskulls and Pidgeys if you need them. This removing them straight from play is really, really scary, and it has a ton of great sort of attacking option. Pikachu for that huge one-hit KO potential. Noctowl to get pretty much everything won in the game. I love also Ditto as well. Chuck it in the active spot. You can obviously search it from the likes of likes of Fan Rotom, and get any of your Tera Pokemon. Get your Teal'c Ogerpon, get your Wellspring Ogerpon, get your Clefairy to actually deal these huge one-hit KOs on likes of Dragapult and Raging Bolt. It is a very, very scary deck to keep in check. Raging Bolt is still, I think, kind of like, I describe it as like kind of vibing right now. It is still very strong right now. It's focusing still more on the Noctowl style package, and I think that's still the best way to play it in the future. A deck which I think is really rising from the ranks right now, it's even Charizard, Flareon, as well as also Archaludon. Archaludon is kind of like drifting away slowly from having the Hop Zacian build. That build is still kind of going around there, but it's kind of going back to where we're seeing right now with Standard, where one of the best ways to play Archaludon is just for Archaludons, a ton of healing, like Scoop Up Cyclone, like the likes of Churro, and just pick it up. Because 300 damage is very difficult for some decks to get these huge one-hit KOs on this one. So I think that's the reason why I think Archaludon's doing really well. Charizard is still kind of got and ahhing about what build it wants to do. The Terapagos build is still very, very powerful, but also it's still a good case to go with this regular build, what we're used to. Yes, we've lost a ton of the key pieces, like Thornton, like Rotom, but kind of still having Pidgeot Dusknoir, having that checkmate scenario with Briar is still incredibly powerful. And then we're seeing that really kind of like rise through the ranks. There's also Flareon as well. Flareon, I think, is definitely more of an underdog style right now, which is doing incredibly well over in Japan. Doing that 280 damage straight away, as early as your second turn, with likes of Crispin and the acceleration from the Flareon itself, it's just generally insanely powerful, and I really, really like this one. So there's also Zoroark. The build is very similar to what I'm going to share a case in another sort of tabletop matchup, which should be out over this weekend. And we're kind of like seeing that it's going more of the the hourglass build, the more of the Duramaton with having that reversal energy. So I think it's definitely more similar to the top 16 list from Champions League last month. It's kind of become the more normal Zoroark. And Gardevoir is still going strong right now. Honestly, I think Gardevoir numbers will definitely be dwindling right now. We're only a few weeks away from when we get the Cynthias and the Ethan cards come out over in Japan. So we are going to see a huge shift right now over in Japan. And I think that will really affect likes of Gardevoir numbers really decrease. And if we just look at the top 4 list, we can see here again the S tier, the tier 1 is that Tera Box, Raging Bolt, as well as also Dragapult, and they're all very evenly spread, especially with the tier A's as well. Again, these are pretty much, I would describe them as some of the best decks that really are the huge performing archetypes right now. If you want to know about post-rotation, if you want to know what decks are doing well, these 9 decks here, if you just play all of them, you have a really good understanding about where the meta is sort of heading. We are seeing there is some of the owners Pokemon are doing strong, which is that in Zoroark, because it has a great inbuilt, literally, trade system. You're drawing for your deck very quickly, as well as also has some good sort of attacking option. Yes, they may not be dealing that much damage, but we've seen how powerful the likes of Wellspring Master Ogerpon is in the Tera Boxes, really keeping these single prize archetypes in check, or these evolving decks, which potentially could really struggle to draw into stuff, as there is absolutely no bench protection. So now I want to actually break down some of these lists, how the lists are really kind of evolving, as we're only just a few weeks away from pre-releases from Journeys Together, which I'm, for one, very excited. So we'll obviously start off with looking at Tera Box here. And this build here, I think is very straightforward to where we've seen Tera Box, and nothing is absolutely wrong with this style of archetype. I really love what they kind of have for to play in this one. I think 3 Crispin, you can have 3, you can have 4, and I still think it's still very, very powerful. You're always going to be using this one as your main energy acceleration of choice. Would you play a couple energy switches to work well with the Tilmas Ogerpon, going with an energy attachment, as well as also Sparkling Crystal, another way to get out these Wellspring Masters as quickly as possible. I think you definitely need to go no less than a 4/4 line of Noctowl, guaranteeing getting any sort of card out in play, because you're always going to have a Tera Pokemon. There is no way in heck that you're not going to have a Tera Pokemon in play. So I think it's a great energy search archetype for the deck. And the energy split, I think, is really, really strong. You don't need any more than any of these sort of decks. But this build here is a little bit different. Playing like Badu, a little bit of a slower approach, only having 2 copies of energy search instead of the usual 3 or 4. But it does play 4 copies of Crispin, really maximizing this out, and it works very well for the likes of Super Rod. I've noticed Super Rod has pretty much disappeared from most people's lists. They are banking on the likes of Night Stretcher, guaranteeing their energy, or Pokemon instead of potentially hoping to draw into this one with Super Rod. But Super Rod in a very heavy Crispin style archetype is very, very powerful and really, really strong. We see the energy splits are focusing a bit more on 1 more lightning, because they want to be utilizing that for their Pikachu. So again, I could see that kind of like have some sort of good play in the sort of deck, or potentially actually be attacking with the Trapagos as well, using his other attack, which is still good. Or even generally a Badu, slowing down the opponent section could be quite powerful if you whiff the attack with having that Wellspring Master attack. Which is the Dragapult, and this build here kind of is, I think, an answer to the likes of Tera Box. I feel like Dragapult is kind of like looking at sort of the results right now, going away from Sparkling Crystal and going to more of a EXP share as long as Unfair Stamp. Because we don't really have any good sort of tool removal at all, or very easy accessible one, having the EXP share just chucking on one of your Dragapults is really strong. It's another way to get an energy acceleration. We already played Crispin, so we already have that as an energy acceleration choice. But why not play EXP share? So all of a sudden, now you might only need the attachment for a turn, or generally you can attach something to another thing next turn and have that Pokemon ready as well. What I think is so interesting about this archetype is it does play a 1/1 liner for Farigiraf. First to know, Farigiraf actually prevents it from taking any damage from basic Pokemon. So this is basically your Tera Box answer. You chuck this in here, they can't really attack into it, and you can hopefully win the game that sort of way. You already play Psychic Energies and a Crispin, so you have already a way to Energy Accelerate and attack with this one. So I could see this sort of deck kind of be a little bit of an answer. I feel it was really unique, really different approach of our Dragapult, trying to be that more counterintuitive. We can see they have sacrificed some of their searching cards to actually utilize this Farigiraf. But overall, I think it's a really interesting choice. And this build here is a bit more of the traditional style build, which we've kind of seen Dragapult work over in post-rotation. I love having a Blood Moon Ursaluna. We saw obviously do really well by Fernando's sort of brothers over on EUIC, but they were working with a Monkey Dory. And I think this Blood Moon Ursaluna in any sort of deck Bellamine is one of my favorite Pokemons pretty much of all time and definitely of the new sort of couple years. So I think having this card option, having this great sort of attacking option, especially as you can pretty much unlock its attack as quick as possible by having using your Dusknoirs and Dusclopses. We are seeing they're going for a 2-2-1 line of Dusclops. So could this be the best way? Focusing more on having the Dusclops, the Dusclops, sorry, spread some damage counters on this one, 5 and 5, and then use Dragapult to clear it up, potentially taking those 3 prizes. Again, we are seeing the unfair samp, we're seeing the EXP share, still seeing the Crispin, and also Jacques as well. This is kind of like guarantee you can get out your Dracloaks because they are your inbuilt draw section. We've lost likes of Lance, so Jacques has pretty much taken over its start place. Raging Bolt here, I really like this sort of build here. We are definitely seeing more Crispins pop up in Raging Bolt as another way to energy accelerate. Pretty much guarantee you can attack with Raging Bolt as quickly as possible. We have Sada, of course, but it can be a little bit difficult to get with this one. But having a Crispin in this one guarantees 2 energies from the deck. And obviously you can energy accelerate with having the likes of the Tiamat's Ogerpon in play. We are going back to the Hootsuite build because it's pretty much the best way. You have a single prize Raging Bolt as well, which is another great attacking option. The rest of the deck pretty much is very straightforward to wear with Notice, Raging Bolt. Nothing really has changed, but I really think it's really good thing to note. If you are a huge Raging Bolt diehard, definitely be teching in Crispin, definitely be testing out the Noctowl build because this build here, I think is definitely the strongest way Raging Bolt is really going to compete in the post-rotational format. Now, Archaludon is a deck which is kind of like, again, had quite a few faces right now in post-rotation. It started off more as a hop engine. That's definitely how I prefer to build Archaludon right now. I, for one, am always going to be having the owner's Pokemon deck, and I really love where the Hops Archaludon sort of build. It's great. It's turn 2, Energy Accelerate, and also using Hop Zacian to deal 330 damage pretty much at anything, pretty much one hit KOing. But they're kind of seeing this build is really strong, focusing primarily more on sort of good sort of protection by having the Churro as well to bring up your Archaludons and really be using it as a huge wall style effect. What is so interesting, they play a 3-2-1 line of the Dunsparce EX. For those who don't know, Dunsparce is great. It has a just draw 3 cards and shuffle it back into the deck. And you also have the Dunsparce EX for 1 energy, 60 times the amount of EX Pokemon in the opponent's side. If we're seeing likes of Tera Box pretty much be this huge Archaludon which plays a ton of EX Pokemon, this also you can have at 270 HP. Very difficult to KO unless you have the likes of Pikachu to get this big KO on pretty much anything in the opponent's side, which I really like. Seeing Rocky Helmet as well, making sure that if they deal any damage to this one, they actually deal some damage back. So a good way to kind of like counteract a Pikachu in the Tera Box, or generally just putting some damage on the opponent's sort of side of the field. This could be the best way to play Archaludon right now. I love the really good draw factor has the Dunsparce has to offer, and also just generally the good tanking ability that Archaludon has, removing its weakness and 300 damage, like I mentioned all the time, is so difficult for some decks to really get a big one-hit KO. But is Prime Catcher the best ace spec, or should we be going back to scoop up Cyclone, protecting your Archaludon and limiting the prize cards the opponent can take? Gholdengo again, it's another deck which really focuses on having the Dunsparce. You already have a deck which is very fast, very aggressive, and drawing through a ton of cards. Why not make this deck even more aggressive with the Dunsparce, drawing 3 additional cards? You can get them off from like the side for Maniacs. You can draw into the energies you really need to acquire, or get into the energy recoveries, like having that Night Stretcher, or superior energy retrieval, or just regular energy retrieval. And that can really be unlocked from the Dunsparce. Again, the secondary attacking option is great, having the Sizzle. Lots of Pokemon right now run off ability, so this is a good single prize that potentially you can get these huge one-hit KOs, and very difficult for certain archetypes to really kind of like play around with this one. Another thing I've noticed they're using a lot of the techs right now over which we've been using, the Monkey Dory with the double darkness energies, kind of having that one to deal, just move 3 damage counters away. It helps in the Dragapult matchup so much, because the only way how Dragapult can't one-hit KO Gholdengo, and Gholdengo has a great Dragapult matchup. So all of a sudden 260 damage is very difficult for Dragapult, so they'll do 200 on one side and then 60 on another one. So all of a sudden they're 1 of 60. If you have Monkey Dory, just move those 3 damage counters and move it to another one as well. All of a sudden that Gholdengo is protected unless the opponent is going to use like the Dusclops or Dusknoir to unlock that damage capability. Again, something to really think about Gholdengo right now. I, for one, think Gholdengo is great post-rotation, and potentially the Dunsparce build could be the best and strongest version for this one. No one is Charizard, a deck which, again, doesn't really know its true sort of form right now. This build here is very similar to where we've seen Charizard decks in the past right now, focusing more on a ton of the Pidgeots, the Dusclops and Dusknoirs, going more of the Pressure Trolley to get out your board set up, having the likes of TM Evolution to evolve into your Charmeleons, or even the Pidgeotos, so you can get out, kind of like save some of your rare candy choices, because you play a ton of Stage too, so you want to protect your rare candies as much as possible. But the rest of it is still very straightforward, very similar to where we've seen this one. Does play a Chi-Yu, which is pretty good, very interesting deck. And even going the Cleffa as well, it's a deck which doesn't really rely on having that Badu. Now you can like slow down your opponent's side, but what makes Charizard so strong is having 330 HP, pretty much two hits to KO everything in the format, and it's very difficult to be one hit KO'd in response. So that's the reason why I think Charizard is so very powerful. But this build as well is also doing very, very strong. The Trapagos build, because Trapagos doesn't really have a double turbo anymore, it needs to have a good form of energy acceleration, like Crispin, or in this case, the likes of Charizard. Having these multiple terrors makes sure you can still utilize Pidgeot, but also again unlock the capability of that Noctowl line. So is this another best way to play Charizard? Having Maxim Belt pretty much makes sure that these Charizards can get these big one-hit KOs on these Tera Pokemon, on the Wellspring, on the Teal Mask, on these not Pikachus, unless you use some damage counters, so it unlocks against these some Tera sort of options. So I really like how this build is really kind of adapting, how it's really evolving right now. So could this be the best way to play Charizard in post-rotation, going more of the Trapagos sort of build as well, having a massive sort of board state and kind of going off a checkmatey sort of scenario, or do we go back to the original build, which we are so truly used to? I also want to look at Flareon as well. Ooh, sorry about that. I think Flareon is a pretty good check right now, going into post-rotation. You can obviously utilize a ton of great supporters right now. Obviously, Crispin to energy accelerate to your Flareons, making sure you can attack even going second. Because you have Eevee to evolve into your Flareon EX, which I absolutely love. You can unlock the likes of Noctowl to get any sort of cards you really need to have to offer. Have likes of the Black Belt. So, or sudden Flareon can hit 330 damage, knocking out these not Trapagoses, these Dragapults, these Charizards, these very scary Gardevoirs, which I can't get these huge one-hit KOs. So I really like how Flareon is really adapting right now. I think Leafeon and Jolteon are another great sort of attacking options to really have that response against any of the field it has to offer. And also you have the likes of Glass Trumpet. If your Flareon gets KO'd, you've got some Eevees on the bench, Energy Accelerate with Glass Trumpet, chuck in Natural Spot, recover any of your Eevees you have in the discard pile, and also you can evolve straight into your Flareon EX and streamline the attacks. I think Flareon is very powerful. I think especially since it had its response at the Champions League, we're going to see its numbers continue to increase. I wonder if it will translate over to us. We haven't seen Flareon do well currently right now in our format, so potentially when we say goodbye to these in B-Stars and we go into post-rotation, could we see Flareon numbers increase? And Zoroark as well is very similar to where I kind of like have my own Zoroark right now. But what's so interesting, it plays the likes of Hyper Blower instead of the likes of Prime Catcher or Unfair Stamp, which are what used to. With having the likes of a Hyper Blower, you can guarantee you can get your Dramatams, you can get your End Zoroark, and kind of like have that good established board state as early as possible. Another interesting tech, which I haven't really seen the most in Zoroark, is having that TM devolution. You're going to be spreading a ton of damage counters everywhere with Duramatams attacking option, so why not play TM devolution? You could take multiple prize cards that way, set up lots of KOs with having that Monkey Dory, which I love in Zoroark, may I say, and also having another great sort of attacking options in the late game, having a Blood Moon Ursaluna. I really love where Zoroark is going this one. Having that Shiro like protect your Zoroark so it doesn't get this huge one-hit code in the later game, and also works well with the likes of the Power Hourglass and ends PP up by discarding some of those energies as well, putting to your hand, preserving them one, using the ends PP up to move it back into the active spot. Another interesting thing is they aren't playing the Petron. I think Petron is great, having that Poison Mochi to actually deal additional 40 more damage. Yes, you take some damage in response, but I think it's still very, very powerful, and I really love having a Binding Mochi in this one, and you can always threaten Petrant as an attack which can do 300 damage in a late style game. I think Zoroark is definitely the biggest threat for owner's Pokemon going to post-rotation format, and definitely the best of them going forward. And finally, I just want to have a little touch on Gardevoir. Yes, it's fallen from grace and potentially could rise back up the ranks from having the Mega Gardevoir EX got revealed. And we can see here that the rest of the deck is very similar to where we've seen before. We've seen the Brilliant Blender, we've seen the Double Monkey Dory, we've seen the Lily's Clefairy to pretty much guarantee all of your Pokemon get these huge one-hit KOs on these Dragon Pokemon, and even Morties, which is great. You just cast some cards, and you get to draw until your opponent's bench sides. If we're seeing the likes of Tera Pokemon, Tera Box really kind of rises to rank as being one of the strongest archetypes. Morty can draw 8 cards, which is very, very powerful. Could this be the best way to play Gardevoir, or is it definitely fallen from grace that people are still getting the copioid of just wanting to play Gardevoir? That's definitely something which I'm be thinking right now. So, kind of looking ahead, can anything really stop Tera Box? I generally think Tera Box is up there as a tier 1 archetype. It is so fast, so aggressive, and when we're playtesting it over at EUIC, One thing Justin kept saying was how scary it was. He could get out, going second, that turn one double prize KO with Wellspring Master Ogerpon, using that torrential pump, which is absolutely terrifying. Will these results really translate? I think Tera Box definitely will. We've seen the likes of some of our international players in our theme, like Rahul, like Todd, they play Tera Box, worked over there in Japan. That's definitely going to have a huge more backing towards it as well as also getting a ton of results right now. Being one of the strongest archetypes, I think Tera Box will definitely, when we get to post-rotation, be up there as one of the strongest decks. And can any other Terras really work? Are we missing some Terras? Are we utilizing the strongest Tera Pokemon right now? Do we need the Dene in this one? Do we need any other sort of Tera Pokemon right now? Or generally, is having likes of the Ogerpons, the Pikachus, the Trapcos, they are the best ones to work this one. I hope you've actually enjoyed this video right now, and I'm really analyzing and looking to see exactly how powerful Tera Box is. We've seen the impact right now, looking at the deck list as well. They are slowly evolving, and this Shaman cannot come soon enough. And it's only a few weeks away for Japan, and I could definitely see the numbers of Tera Box really dropping as they have that inbuilt damage protection. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Let me know down below, what do you think of the return of Mega Pokemon? What do you think of Tera Box? Do you think these archetypes are very powerful? And what would you change for Mega Pokemon going forward? My name is Charlie TCG, and I'll see you guys in a few days' time for another video. Bye for now.